Hello and welcome back to Hal Tech TV. Today we have another review for you, and this is on the SilverStone Grandia GD10 case. Now, the way I'm going to lay out this review is we're going to go around the exterior, talk about the exterior, open it up, talk about the interior, and then we'll finish off with a conclusion at the end, letting you know what we rated it out of 100 in our written review and whether or not it received any of our awards. But before we do that, I want to talk about the case as a whole, without talking about any specific features in particular, maybe one of the main features, but nothing that's specific to this case, nothing unique about this case specifically. So, what this case is a HTPC case. That's what it's aimed at. It's aimed at being used for HTPCs, which kind of means that its target market is as a second system for second system users. People who are interested in having a second system, a HTPC entertainment center style system that isn't their main system. But it's kind of large for a second system. This is a full-size ATX case, but it also stands at 27 to 28 litres, so it's also kind of small for a full-size ATX case, which is very, very interesting because a second ago I was saying it was big, but now it's small. Well, what this really is a HTPC case, but it's a very compact ATX case, which means that if you are the kind of person who's looking at a second system HTPC system, but you also want it to be an extreme system that's capable of being a full entertainment center style system, then this can support you with that, because it can do all the graphics cards, all the RAID cards, all of that within it, and you don't have to worry about it. You've got the space. That's what it's aimed at. It's aimed at people who want the second system but kind of want more than just a tiny compact system that they can use to watch Netflix on. So now we've got that out of the way. That's basic target market, and if you fit in that, then this case is going to be very interesting for you, like a few of the other Grandia series cases that are already out on the market are. So let's have a look around the exterior. I'll talk about the exterior a little bit, like I said, then we'll go in the interior, and then we'll finish off with a conclusion. So I'll bring you in, and then we'll have a look around the exterior. I'll tell you my opinions and all of that lovely stuff. So if you just want to come closer, then we'll get started. So here we've got the front of the case. Now this is probably its most striking feature. It's got a very thick aluminium panel in the front here, and this hides all of its front I/O. Now, not only that, it's also got a plastic kind of bezel around the front. It's got a plastic fascia as well as that, which is kind of confusing because it's got a steel body, a plastic fascia, plastic front, but then an aluminium door, which doesn't really make sense, and it can kind of look weird from a few angles here and there, but it works overall because of the quality of the plastic. So it's kind of nice, but at the same time it is still somewhat noticeable. Not only that, you do also have the SilverStone logo up here, which is a nice addition, and it's kind of the normal Grandia style of things. You do also have your activity LEDs hidden down here along a little bar that's kind of recessed within the plastic. Now, if you are to look on the door here, you will notice that there's a lock. That's its kind of only feature on this panel, and if I was to unlock it with the plastic key, you would notice that it's very, very loose, and that's because it's not really a lock. It's a lock if you are comparing it to kind of kids' toy handcuffs kind of thing. That's how secure it is. In fact, I can lock it and then unlock it with my finger, so it's that secure. It is for kind of keeping babies away from being able to kind of nudge the power button and turn it off. But when we pull down this thick aluminium panel, we will also notice that it is magnetically held up there, so you do kind of have that added security against babies there. And on the back of this lock is also plastic, as well as the key. Taking the panel down, you do notice you've got 5 1/4 inch drive bay, which is a nice addition, especially for those looking at building a serious HTPC, if you want kind of Blu-ray drives, that kind of thing. You also have your power and reset switches here. They are nice, they're square, they are extremely solid buttons. You've got 2 USB 3 ports, headphone and microphone jacks, and you do have a beautiful gap between the USB ports for things like chunky USB sticks. If you do store all of your media on USB sticks, you probably have pretty chunky USB sticks. Something like the Kingston Data Travel G3 kind of thing. I believe that, if that's the one I'm thinking of, it's the one I've got, which is very thick and it's made of metal, so it kind of blocks off the second port if you've got them too close. So if you do have big USB sticks, this is going to be an absolute godsend for you. So you've got that is the front section. A little underwhelming when you actually experience it, but the nice aluminium touch is still there at the same time. Now if we spin it round to the right side, you will notice that we've got a big ventilation thing here. Now SilverStone did say that these grills were made through rigorous testing over a month, where they tested over 150 different styles, different designs of grills, and this turned out to be the best one for noise, basically, and overall performance. But this dual 120mm grill, which can be screwed down by some screw holes there, is actually just one that you slide off, which is a very, very nice feature. It's a lot better than magnets, it's a lot better than clips, it's a lot better than any of that. Just the fact that it slides on and kind of holds itself in there works perfectly, and it's a very high quality dust filter as well. Behind that you've got 2 120mm fan mounts, which do already actually have 2 120mm fans in. You will notice when you look inside this case that you don't really have to actually add any fans at all. They are all provided for you, which is a very, very nice bonus. Now if we are to rotate it round to the left side panel, you'll notice that it's slightly different in the sense that you've got 2 separate filters here. Now this is because when we look round to the back, this is actually the intake for the power supply. So this is slightly different, obviously, in the sense that it's for a different fan. So this one clips on and kind of just, it levers itself out, and it's the same with this one, which hides your other intake there as well. So you've got 1 intake here and 2 on the other side, leaving you with 3 120mm intake fans. Other than that, we do also have, going around to the back, a lot of space and a lot of ventilation as your exhaust. So you do have a standard ATX power supply fan mount. You've got standard ATX power supply bracket. You've got 7 expansion slots with another one up here for if you choose to go with something like a fan control or whatever, lighting, that kind of thing, that will need a PCI expansion slot for the controls. You do also have your I/O bracket up here and your exhaust ventilation, which can fit 2 80mm fans if you want to, but it's really not that necessary. It's kind of just an option there for you if you want to go with it. Now, on the top of the case, we have ventilation, and this is above where the graphics cards go. I wonder why. Well, like I said, this is designed for those who are looking at building serious entertainment center style systems. So this is going to be perfect for those who put powerful graphics cards in that need that ventilation. We also have a kind of mottled paint finish on the top here, so it's not just a plain black coating. you do have some sort of texture there, which is nice to look at as well. It reflects nicely in the light. Underneath, we don't have that much to talk about. You've just got your two hi-fi style feet on the front, as well as two just solid rubber feet on the back, as well as your kind of screws, the back side of your screw mounting for most of the system. Other than that, there isn't really anything to talk about on the exterior. Overall, it's a very simple exterior, but it is very nice to look at most angles, and they get away with most of it. The lock itself, though, is an absolute letdown, and I would love to see a proper lock on the front of a system like this. It was, for me, its most interesting feature. It's what sold it for me before I'd seen it, if that made sense. After I'd seen it, I'm not sure if I'd want it as my system. And if I had bought this case, I would be questioning whether I still wanted it after seeing the state of the lock. But moving on to the interior. So here we've got the top of the case, and lifting it off, if I were to lift it off properly, I'd pull it back and you literally just slide it off. This is one of the nicest panels, side panels, top panels, whatever, that I've ever come across, and it's just simply down to the fact that it's so smooth taking it off and putting it back on. It's literally two kind of flat rails that sit on top of two flat rails, perfectly lined up. They slide forwards and it screws in with two screws at the back. It is so nice. It's absolutely beautiful, and it fits perfectly, as well as the panel being absolutely solid. It weighs a ton. Now, once you actually get inside the case, you notice that it's a very, very open case. It's a very open style, and there's not that much to take out, to move around, to actually get to things. So with 4 screws up here, you can take this cage out, which, if you're used to SilverStone cases, if you've had SilverStone cases in the past, you will know exactly what this is, because this has actually been taken from a design that you see quite often in SilverStone cases. It's pretty much been adapted for almost every single case. You see it in the Sugo line, the Fortress line, with the FTO3 Mini, at least. I'm not too sure about the FTO3, but on all compact cases, this is a very popular design with SilverStone. And how they work is they put a 5 1/4 inch drive on top, 3 1/2 inch that slides underneath. This one has foam dampening on for you to silence your hard drive with. And then if you wanted, if you weren't going to use the 5 1/4 inch drive, you could also then put two 2 1/2 inch drives on top. So there's two 2 1/2 inch drive bays for you, and a 3 1/2 inch if you aren't using optical storage. At the moment, 3 1/2 inch drive bays aren't actually that necessary to get quite a lot of storage, especially with 6 terabyte hard drives looking at around £215, meaning that per gigabyte they're not actually that much different anymore to the smaller drives, to things like the 2 terabyte drives. So you could fit, at least in this case, with two 3 1/2 inch drive bays for storage, you could fit 12 terabytes of storage alone just from them 2 drives, if you were to go with that amount of storage within the system. So two 3 1/2 inch drive bays isn't actually that bad now when I'm doing this video, but more would be better, definitely, for those who are looking at getting maybe a 2 terabyte to start with and then adding 2 in the future. Now, with that cage to the side, you then still have this bar, which can also be removed with 1 screw up top, which I've already removed, and 1 screw in the back, which I'll just remove now. Now that is extremely easy to remove, and then from there, if I don't lose the screw, from there you've got a pretty much open case, and I'll just spin it round so that you can see from the other side now. you've got a very, very open case. So you've got the space for your motherboard, you've got the space for your power supply. Now, power supply cables, I would always go with a modular power supply in a case like this because they will be interfering with the intake fan on this side. But you do get a lot of tie mounts, tie loops around this area to deal with the cables, but always go with a modular power supply in a situation like this. Other than that, you do also get your 3.5 inch, your second 3.5 inch drive bay down here for storage, and they're both sound dampened, which is always good to see on HTPC orientated systems. Now, you do also get a third 2.5 inch drive bay, but it's not in a very good location, and it's down in the bottom corner right here, right in front of where the power supply will go, and right in front of this fan. It mounts underneath this fan and you screw it in through the bottom of the case, but it's going to be an absolute nightmare in regards to cables, and it's not going to be that nice a place to put your hard drive if you're thinking about the longevity of your actual connectors on the hard drives. Did I say power supply? Hard drives I meant. Other than that, the layout is pretty simple. That is all there is to it. As far as CPU limitations and graphics card limitations, what I'll do is I'll put them on the screen now for you to read, because I've completely forgotten them and they were the one thing that I needed to remember, but obviously I had to remember everything else as well. But other than that, there's really not that much to it, and that's what I like about it. I like how simple it is. I like how simple it is to work with. You can put your graphics cards in, plug them in, and there's nothing else to it. Granted, there is no space pretty much between the power supply and the 7th PCI expansion slot. There's literally no support for water cooling, because although you have two intake fans in this side, there's no gap realistically between it and the motherboard standoffs. It's an air cooling case, and it's very compact in every regard. You get very little space for most things, but the things that you need is graphics card length and CPU cooler height, and then at least the basics for storage, and it does all that, which I can't say enough. It works, which is, I mean, it's amazing. You also have your 7 expansion bays here, which kind of come out of the case at the back, and then you have holes in the top of the case here to put the screwdriver down in. That's how compact it is. You do it that way. If I'm looking at it correctly, yeah, you do it that way, and you have to remove one screw here, and then you screw down, which I can show you now. If I can do it from behind it, if I can untighten this screw. No, I can't untighten that screw, but believe me, with it. So yeah, moving on to my concluding thoughts now. So in summary, what do I think about the GD10? Well, overall it's a very nice package. I love the quality of the top panel, and I love the interior. I love how simple it is. But it's a very niche product. It's very, very Grandia series style, and it only really works for that very small market. Anything outside that niche, it won't really be a good case for. And I think that SilverStone already have better cases in the Grandia series, namely the GD06 and the GD07. But this is kind of a budget version, and I don't think it worked as well as it could have. So, onto my summary. What do I think about this particular case? Well, it's a very, very niche product, But I do love the top panel. I love the quality of the top panel. It is one of the nicest top panels, side panels, or whatever that I've come across, simply because of how nice it goes on and fits with the case. Other than that, I love the interior. I love how simple it is. It's so easy to work in. You can just put stuff in, take stuff out. It's so easy. There's no kind of fiddly little corners, little areas that you can't get your fingers into. All of the interior is pretty much removable. You can take anything out and everything. It's without a doubt, pretty much the easiest case to work in. But because it's such a niche product, because it's part of the Grandia lineup, that pretty much all are cases for that niche market, I do think SilverStone have already made cases better than this for that exact niche, namely the GD06 and GD07 cases. They are more expensive, however, and I think that this was SilverStone's attempt at making a budget version of those cases, but I think the mashup of aluminium, plastic and steel on the outside kind of didn't work, but it's worked for the price. But that whole mashup of different materials and then the pathetic lock kind of, it makes me not like the case as much as it could have. You know, it's definitely one of the cases that had so much potential, but it's not quite reached it yet, and it just needs another revision. That's all it needs. So in summary, we gave this a 74 out of 100 based on our rating system. So it received our bronze award, but if they release a revision in the future where little things like the lock get replaced with an actual lock, and they kind of clear up the issue with all of the different materials, then it will definitely be a much higher rated product. But other than that, I'm Hal Thompson. You've been watching another HalTech TV video. If you want to check out the written review or the unboxing maybe on this particular product, you can check out the links in the description box for those. But other than that, please go over to the Facebook page, give that a like, head over to the website and bookmark it for future reference. I'm Hal Thompson. Like I said, you've been watching another HalTech TV video. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.